On today's episode of Fin Too Deep, myself and Neal Driscoll will discuss if Mike McDaniel could lose the locker room if the New York Jets happen to beat the Miami Dolphins this week. Man, that's an interesting one. We'll cover it. Is this Tyreek Hill's final season as a Miami Dolphin? Tua Tagovailoa, he's on the verge of making NFL history. What exactly is it? Plus, we'll discuss the Miami Dolphins playoff hopes, the Dolphins coaches addressing the soft narrative today, and a whole lot more. Do me the favor, smash that like button, subscribe if you're new. Let's get into this.
Touchdown! You have got to be kidding me.
Jalen Waddle has a Dolphin touchdown.
And he will score! Field on the near side, man open. Touchdown!
The run from Tua Tagovailoa.
Touchdown!
He's going deep. He's got it for a touchdown again. Touchdown!
Beautiful day to be a Dolphin fan.
Let's go!
You're listening to Fin Too Deep.
Tua back to throw. Blitz coming. They get to him. No, he takes off running. And he's in. Touchdown, Miami.
With the sixth pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Miami Dolphins select Jalen Waddle.
Giving you unfiltered, informed, and controversial takes on the Miami Dolphins and the NFL Draft. Here's Reason and Neal.
What is good, Fin Nation? What's good? It's your boy Reason. We're back here for another one. Appreciate y'all coming through. It's been a few weeks since we've done Fin Too Deep, just like it's been a few weeks since we did Finish Line until we had an episode yesterday because life's been getting in the way. I was in Miami and, everyone's just had things going on. So welcome back, Neal. It's been quite a ride since we last spoke. Hope got back up in the fan base off that 3-game winning streak, only to come crashing back down really hard against the Green Bay Packers. And I've been trying to tell people, I don't know if you've been listening to me, but there's even cause for concern. I mean, look at this. I got a good one. Everyone's talking about whether Tua is making the difference, whether he's not making the difference right now. I mean, you look at the Raiders game, man. I was there. Listen, if we didn't have Tua, could Huntley or Skylar Thompson have led an offense to have an answer for what Minshew and Bowers were doing to our defense, let alone what if the Raiders had a run game to go along with what Bowers and Minshew were doing? So I say all that to say this, there's been a lot of issues, underlying issues that we've known about since before Tua went out to during Tua's went out, and they've popped up since Tua's been back, Neal, because since we last talked, Tua's been on kind of a tear. He's back in MVP type of form, but the problem is everything around him is an issue. And, I had the episode with Ball Game in Richmond yesterday, Neal, and I asked the question, if coaching is the biggest issue, and not just Mike McDaniel, but all three phases of holding the Dolphins back in big games right now, because you look at Tua, you look at what he's done against the Packers and the Bills, it looks like he's figuring it out in these big games against these good teams, while Mike McDaniel still hasn't figured it out, from play calling to personnel usage to Anthony Weaver. He's still green. He's still new at this to an extent. He hasn't figured it out. His defense is allowing 28 points or more in every loss since Tua's come back. And then you look at Danny Crossman. He hasn't had it figured out since Brian Flores was here. So what are your thoughts with the up and down of the win streak, and then the reality of when we face a legitimate playoff contender that we're not in that stratosphere right now, and it's much deeper than the quarterback?
Yeah, man. And I do think that it's okay to be critical of the quarterback, but not have to jump to a conclusion whether he's leaving or town or not, right? Like the reality of it is if you're on the fence that Tua Tagovailoa cannot be the quarterback of this team moving forward, I need a solution. You can't just tell me he can't be the quarterback. I mean, do you really want Sam Darnold or Jameis Winston? You know, the draft, the guys that people want in the draft, they're going in the top 5. The Dolphins won't be drafting there, and they're both Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward, great players. They both have question marks. I'd be shocked if either of them reach the individual level of success that Tua's had on the field, right?
Okay, yeah.
I think the frustrating part is that in a lot of like that Buffalo game, I think that was Tua's maybe his best game is overall in his career.
I don't know if you saw the tweet, Neal, but Tua put up the second highest EPA passing per passing play ever against the McDermott team since 2017. Okay, he put that up until that was in week 9, that game, right, Neal? I'm just adding this because you probably don't know this stuff. Week 9, that was in week 9, right, Neal? That was the 9th highest EPA per play from a quarterback all season, Neal. The 8 guys in front of Tua all won their games. Tua was the only one to lose. You know why?
Right.
The defense had the 22nd worst EPA per play allowed in the McDermott era for the Dolphins, their defense, and the special teams in that game, the Dolphin special teams, was the 7th worst EPA per play against the McDermott-led team as well. So Tua puts up the second best EPA per play from a passing standpoint ever, but because the defense and special teams wasn't good enough.
Right. And he was awesome in that game. And he was awesome in the 3 weeks after that. And we beat up teams that we should beat. We did exactly what we do. The Green Bay game to me was just so frustrating because it was another one of those games that, what we put on the pedestal, the prime time, let's get our season. And it might have been the worst they ever looked in any of those big time games. And we're going to get to McDaniel. I want more personally out of Tua in the first half there. I do. And I think in the back half of that, he found his rhythm. He's great. You mix that in over the last 5 games. You could argue that Tua's playing his most effective and efficient football overall during that time period of his career. He's definitely matured, and he really seems like he has a firm grasp of this team at this point, which is huge. The factors around him aren't great, and I think the owner has culpability. The GM has culpability, right? They do. Everyone who rubs their badge and goes in the building has some level of culpability. When you ask me if I had to put it on one person, what went wrong with the 2024 Miami Dolphins, I do not think Mike McDaniel is a good football coach. And there's various reasons. First of all, he's in charge of his staff. We had the division last year. We let it slip away. We had a home game against Buffalo. We had all the momentum. We were in control of that game. Then we punt a ball, and Deontay Hardy, who's I don't even know if he's on a team right now, ran a 95-yard punt return for a touchdown. Do you know how hard it is to get a 95-yard punt return for a touchdown? Danny Crossman should have been fired after that game, right?
I know, bro. I don't know how this guy has a job. And, bro, everyone wants to talk about the muff punt, Neal, but everyone forgets we allowed a 43-yard return to start the game against us.
Right. That was the first play. And rule number one, you learn this when you play 5-year-old football. If it's inside the 10, you don't touch it. And look, Malik Washington's a young guy trying to make a play. The coach has got to beat that into his head. And Danny Crossman, since he's been here, the Dolphins have had the worst special teams unit in football. How is he here?
Okay, but does this come back to Chris Greer? Chris Greer and Tom Garfinkel forced Josh Boyer and Danny Crossman on McDaniel.
Right. And that's the disrupt.
They forced everyone wants to talk about Tua. They forced Eichenberg and Austin Jackson on this guy too.
Right. And Mike, man, and I hate it. A picture's worth 1,000 words, and it's cold out there, right?
Neal, I'm going to tell you this: if Mike goes, brother, Greer's got to go. He's not getting a 4th head coach. Are you crazy, bro?
If he comes back, something's crazy. But Mike, man, and I still don't like his play calling. I'm starting to see like a one-size-fits-all offense, whether it's 1st and 10, 4th and 1. It seems like we just don't have the ability to adapt ever with the offense.
Yeah, it's true.
And,
well, no, he showed it. But he showed it for 3 or 4 games, and then all of a sudden, it's like he feels like playing his Shanahan buddy LaFleur. Oh, look at my toy at quarterback. I'm going to show you he's a better toy than what you got at quarterback. Watch this. Like you had shown the growth in 3 or 4 games, and then you threw it out the window. You even showed the growth from a discipline standpoint, and then that went out the window.
And it just seems like most of the time when the coach on the other sideline is as good as him or better than him, he can't beat him.
Yeah,
I mean, he got McVay, which was good. It was a good win. Yeah. The Rams are a decent team. They have their flaws, but like it just like we freeze. And a picture's worth 1,000 words, and it's cold. But like Mike McDaniel looked freaking miserable on that sideline, man. It looked like he just got chipped out of the ice. He looked so bad. But like that, what I don't understand is we go from being this pass-happy, aggressive offense to more of a let's take what the defense has given us. But why can't you do both? Why can't we do both? We didn't throw the ball over 20 yards at all against Green Bay. So you have Tyreek Hill, who's the most expensive decoy in the league.
His coverage is good, bro.
Yeah, no, but no Jari Alexander for Green Bay.
That's it. That comes down to guess what? LaFleur was better with his personnel usage, while you got a guy like McDaniel. When we get down to the 1 yard line, and we've had short yardage situations all day. You activated Jeff Wilson Jr. for a reason. Why didn't you use him? You've got Jalen Wright. You've got Mostert, who's a touchdown. He just snipes touchdowns from everyone inside the red zone last year to get to 21. You got him at the 1. You got these bigger backs, but you go with the 200-pound guy in Achane trying to go through the gaps. Like the personnel, he gets.
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. And it's like the flags, man. 3 flags, 25 yards on the opening drive. Like anytime the offense starts to get its rhythm, a flag comes out. And that's
what I was going to say to you earlier, bro. You know how you said you wanted more from Tua in the first half? Bro, we had 4 drives, okay? First drive starts off with a Jonnu false start. Achane and Tua dig us out of it. Julian Hill false start, I believe it was.
Oh, jeez. How's that guy on this team?
Then Tua and Achane dig us out of it. Problem is, we can't dig ourselves out of the 15-yard unnecessary roughness from Jonnu because it takes us to 3rd and 29. So penalties end our first drive. Second drive, we get a field goal. Third drive, it ends with back-to-back sacks, right? The first sack, Robert Jones got his hands double swiped, tried to recover, and he ended up getting driven and rubbed out Terron Armstead. So Van Ness disengaged. Tua tried to step up because Van Ness had disengaged because of Robert Jones. Boom, sack. Next play, Terron Armstead off the snap works inside to help Robert Jones. Mosert's supposed to chip the free rusher so Armstead can have time to get back out there. He doesn't do that. Sack. And you even see Armstead yelling at Mostert.
I saw that.
Goes like this. You got to chip, right? He even tells him that. So, and then the fourth drive is where Tua missed Achane on 4th down. But if you look at it, he actually he can open him a little bit, but he hit Malik on 3rd. We should have had the first down, but Malik couldn't hold on to the ball through contact. And then he missed Tyreek a few times.
Yeah, that's the throw that I want. That's the throw I want him to hit. Because I think Tyreek might take it to the house.
But that's only one. If you do the math, though, out of 4 drives, only 2 of those drives were in control of Tua. The other 2 drives, poor discipline ended the drive, and the other one, poor communication and protection between your offensive line ended the fucking drive. So Tua didn't even have a chance.
Yeah, and that's I think the bigger picture here is the team build approach that they had to put so much financial in Tyreek, Waddle, and Tua. It just takes away from too much of everything else. Like I looked up the other day because I was curious. They pay both starting guards a combined $6 million a year, and they pay Jason Sanders $4.5 million. Like just put that in perspective. Yeah. They you two starting guards, and I think we got by the first half, and we were all giving praises to the offensive line because it appeared they were playing good. We were just playing a lot of lesser talent in a lot of those games. The guards have been awful. Pro Football Focus gives Liam Eichenberg
I don't know, man. They handled Max Crosby pretty well.
Yeah, they did good against him, but Green Bay destroyed them. Lucas
They've got
Van
a good
Ness
front though. They've got a very good front.
Yeah, but he's been
it's like the
struggling as a
Rams,
rookie.
right?
But Luke Van Ness, I thought it was Clay Matthews out there running around chasing down.
No.
And it's just a tough loss because, like, they're going to go and steamroll the Jets on Sunday. Like, the Jets might not have Sauce Gardner.
They got to win the next 3 for me to even think about buying in, bro.
Yeah, and they play the 3rd, 4th, and 5th ranked defense in a row. So that offense, that's 75% of your cap, is going to have to put up or shut up. And it's going to be interesting. Look, I'm just going to be honest. I don't think that Denver's going to lose enough and we're going to win enough to make the playoffs. It's going to take a miracle.
You think Denver wins out with the Chargers, the Bengals, and the Chiefs to finish off their schedule? I see 3 L's.
I think we lose at least 2 games, though. And I think that Browns game still scares me, too, man. Our defense, man, I think Anthony
I don't
Weaver,
know, bro. The chips are falling our way. Houston. Okay, the Jets, we played them twice. They're the most dysfunctional franchise, and Tua is perfect against them.
Awful.
Stroud is in a sophomore slump, and they've got the distraction of Azeez Al-Shahir going on right now, and they lost one of their leaders, okay? You look at the 49ers, Mason's out, all right? McCaffrey's out. Purdy's shoulders banged up. No Ayuk, but I said on the stream, I said, but watch, Isaac Guerendo's going to have a career game.
Oh, hell yeah.
And that'll even things out.
Right.
But then, honestly, I think if you win the next 3, you're probably running the table. I'm just not going to, get on board and start cheering for it because, I don't know, man.
They're not a contender.
Even if we make the playoffs, this is going to be a one and done.
Yeah, I think they go 2 and 3. I think they sweep the Jets and lose the other 3 games. I think a lot of the players are going to start checking out, to be honest, if they do lose when they lose. And Houston, I think, will be tough because I think DeMeco Ryans will outcoach McDaniel. And it is what it – I hope not, man. I hope they do run the table. I can't – I've allowed myself multiple times to buy back in. And it's like I just can't do it anymore, man. They have not proven to me that they're a good football team consistently. And – it's tough because I do think they have to take a hard look in the mirror, but I don't think big changes are on the horizon in the front office. I don't, because I do think if they win 3 games, they'll convince everybody that it was the 4-game miss of Tua Tagovailoa. And Chris Grier must be a great sales guy internally because
they are right. We would be like 8-4 right now.
They would be, but I even think if
but we'd still be frauds. That's the thing, right? You know what I mean? We'd still be one and done in the playoffs.
I think the Bills, the Chiefs, and the Ravens are so far superior to us. And we've played the Bills tough a couple times. But, it's just, we can't figure these teams out. But
it's not only coaching, it's roster construction, too. Look at the depth these guys have. We have 0 freaking depth, man.
Yeah, you look at the receivers. I know we're trying to like Malik Washington. He's got a future. But he's not ready to be a number 3.
I've asked everyone this. I'll ask you this. Should Craycraft be getting OBJ snaps given what
why isn't he?
OBJ?
Yeah, OBJ's he's got no burst. His burst is
you
gone.
Can't separate at all.
At all.
You can't separate at all.
And honestly, there's been a couple throws that the whole reason you have him here, and he's made some good catches. But that's what he's supposed to do. That's what he's supposed to do. Now, I'm going to give 2 guys a lot of credit. And that's Devon Achane and Jonnu Smith. Because I think both of those players are really ascendant players. And it's hard to say with Jonnu because he's not young. But, I love what I see out of Devon Achane, but I do need Jalen Wright to get more opportunities between the tackles. And, you mentioned Raheem Mostert missing that chip. Let's remember, everybody was telling, at least me, I was an idiot last year because I didn't want Raheem Mostert long-term, and he had 20 touchdowns. Raheem Mostert has not helped the Miami Dolphins in 2024.
He's been in a doghouse since that fumble.
Right. So but we talked about this before the show. I don't care what happens this offseason. I've come to the realization that I think everyone's coming back, front office and coaches. You better swallow your pride and build in the trenches the right way, man, because I said this today in a tweet. 100 million. We are in 2020, 100 million in cap space, 11 picks. 3 first-round picks. We go out and get Tyreek. We get Ramsey. You get Chubb. You get Teron Armstead. In 5 years, 2 playoff appearances, 0 playoff wins.
This is why I think some heads – I think Chris Grier at minimum's head's going to roll if they don't win a playoff game because I think that was the minimum expectation. And then, okay, you said you can use the excuse, well, you didn't have Tua, which you would be valid. But if I'm Ross, I'm going to sit there. Okay, well, you had Tua against the Bills and the Packers. How'd that work out?
And the Cardinals.
Yeah, because the Cardinals
Right.
were a good team when we faced them. And I'm going to sit there and I'm going to say, okay, how did that work out? Right? Because, like I know for a fact Stephen Ross blames the contingency plan on where the season's at more than he does Tua. I know that for a fact right now.
Sure.
So,
well, isn't it amazing when you get a good front office and a good coach, how things can get quick? Look at the Commanders and the Chargers. Like the Chargers roster sucks in my opinion. Like I don't
man.
But Harbaugh, and they brought the guys in from Baltimore who know how to build an organization the right way. Watch what they can do if they actually go out and get legitimate weapons on offense, right? And then the Commanders, getting the quarterback helps. You get a guy like Dan Quinn. You get rid of that curmudgeon Dan Snyder, and you're 8 and whatever and fighting for it's just you see when you get it right how much it can work, and it's so hard to get it right because I'll be honest, if they fire Greer, they bring a GM and that GM has to inherit what's already in place. It's not going to work.
Which they have a track record of doing to
always
people. Yeah.
Like I hate to say it, and I can't believe I'm saying this. The one thing we haven't tried is to give the head coach all the power and let him be the GM and the coach and everything. And I know he's old, and he just interviewed for the North Carolina job.
I'm not.
Here's why though. Let me say one thing though.
No.
Here's why though. At least as one of the greatest coaches of all time, if it didn't work, he could give you an audit of exactly what's wrong with your franchise. Like, I don't trust him making the draft picks, but I do trust him being like, okay, here's why you haven't.
So make him an advisor.
Well, make him an advisor, but pay him. I know it's crazy because I've always defended that this isn't going to happen. If I'm Stephen Ross and I have all the money in the world, I'm calling Ozzie Newsome and being like, dude, I know you love Baltimore.
Yeah, I've said this for years.
What are they paying you?
Yeah,
they're paying you $7 million a year. How does 15?
Loyal.
Yeah, he's extremely loyal. But I would say, how does $15 million a year stand?
I've said this for freaking years since I've had this channel.
Because you agree with me this. There is something fundamentally wrong with the way they evaluate talent.
The problem with Belichick, though, is there is a legitimate case to be made. What was he before and after Brady?
Right. And I agree. But I do think that
like you said, his drafting is like we'd be building statues for Chris Greer's drafting ability if we had Belichick. Like
the one thing but I do think he knows how to identify issues in a.
Yeah, that's why you need him as an advisor. Like what we did with Parcells. You know what? This is what you need to do. I'm going to tell you what they're going to do. This would be the smart move because I keep telling it and I'm just waiting for it to happen.
Please don't
I think
you're going to say.
I think they're going to make a lateral move. I think they're going to fire Greer and they're going to promote Brandon Shore. So then what you would have is your opening for your idea. Okay, Brandon Shore needs a football mind around him, right? So you would promote Brandon Shore like the Steelers did with Omar Khan, a football operations and administration and contract guy. You promote him, make him the GM. And then you make Belichick the senior vice president of football operations. Now,
that I could get down with. If Brandon Shore's the GM.
The overseer. So he's the overseer, and everyone reports to him, but Brandon Shore's the GM.
If he's the GM and they didn't bring in an advisor on football, I'm going to use my life savings, rent out the stadium, make a batch of cyanide, and everyone who's a Dolphins fan can come in and die on the field with me. Because the Belichick part I like. Them firing Greer and moving Shore into that role sounds like such a Stephen Ross move. It's scary.
It's gonna happen,
it's
bro.
Scary. It's
I'm
scary
because
because
that's what's gonna happen.
That would mean at least 3 more years of what we are if that happened.
Listen, it's harsh, and I know this is harsh, and I'm not saying me, but he's 85.
I know.
When the Grim Reaper comes knocking, there's going to be people celebrating on social media platforms. I'm just telling you right now. And all I'm going to say to those people right now is the grass isn't always greener on the other side. Yes, we don't like certain decisions he makes, but look at how much he opens up his pockets for us. Not a lot of owners open their pockets the way Ross does to move money around for the structure we have contractually. Like, So as much as we don't like Ross trusting certain people, because really, you know what? You know where I think you want me to? I'm gonna nail you right now with who I think the problem lies with. I don't think it's Ross. I think it's who Ross trusts the most. I think the issue is Tom Garfinkel. Greer is Garfinkel's boy, and I think Garfinkel is having too much say in certain things because of what he's done with the F1, with the tennis. He needs to be. You need to be. For promotions and all that stuff, cool. But when it comes to football operations, Garfinkel needs to be hands off, and we need to leave this to football minds that Ross can trust.
Right. And look, I'll say this about Stephen Ross because I don't think he's a good NFL owner, but I think he tries pretty damn hard.
He does.
It reminds me of the movie Casino when De Niro has to fire the commissioner's nephew. And it's like he's a good guy, but he's just dumb as shit. He doesn't know what he's doing.
He runs his team like how he ran his real estate businesses that gained him the status he has, right? That's the problem. He's not operating it as a different entity. He's operating it the same way as he did his other entities in real estate.
Well, you look at the 3 franchises that can't get out of their own way. There's really 4. Cleveland Browns, and they have a litany of issues. But look at the Cowboys, the Jets, and the Dolphins. They have a common denominator. They all have owners that have good intentions and want to win. Trust the wrong people and meddle in the business of their operation, right? Like, I don't know everything about every NFL organization, but I do know what's in my backyard. Steve Bisciotti, who's the Ravens owner, he goes to the pre-draft meetings, but he never tells Eric DeCosta or Ozzie Newsome what to do. He hires them, he empowers them, and he trusts them to make the right decisions. He doesn't go in the draft room and say, hey, you should take Lamar Jackson, right? Like, they don't do that. Like, he's the owner. He hires people. His ass is on the golf course all day long playing golf and doing all that stuff. I wish that Stephen Ross would open up the checkbook, but stay away. Just stay away. And I don't know, and I'm not trying to say, when we always have to walk with eggshells in society, nobody wants anyone to pass away, right? Like, that's not what we're saying. But I will say this: the best thing that ever happened to the Baltimore Orioles is when Peter Angelos passed away, right?
Yeah.
It's the reality. And Stephen Ross inherited his team 16 years ago, and we had the second highest winning percentage of any team in all of professional sports. Now we're like 23rd.
We're better off with Huizinga. Yeah.
Now we're like 23rd. So it's like the losing does suck. And it's one of those things because I'm wrong a lot. I'm wrong a lot. I was all about that Laramie Tunsil trade. I was all about trading with the 49ers and taking Jalen Waddle, right? Maybe those moves weren't the right moves, right? Thank God we didn't take Kyle Pitts like a lot of people wanted, but maybe the move was staying at 3rd and taking Jamar Chase. Or making that trade and drafting Penei Sewell. I'm wrong a lot too. Being a GM in a football team is very, very hard. But the problem that I have is it's continually failing, and it's like nothing's happened. We've had
it goes back to what you said. You made a big key point there when you're talking about the meddling. Look at what happened with Parcells. Do you remember why Parcells? I don't know if you ever heard what happened behind the scenes of why he got frustrated and left and quit.
Yeah, didn't he hate Stephen Ross or something?
No. So what happened was Stephen Ross in 2009 promoted Mike D to the CEO. And what happened is Mike D started telling everyone to report to him, not to Parcells.
Oh yeah, see
Parcells had an out in his contract that basically that he could take. He took it, and we ended up having to pay him out and stuff too. But it was because that was Ross's Garfinkel at the time, his right-hand man, Mike D, and Mike D started going over Parcells' head. Parcells said, F you. I don't know who the hell do you think you are compared to me in this business. I'm out.
Right. And they were building something good then. They were building it the right way. They focused on the trenches. They took Jake Long with the first overall. You know what I mean? They were building something.
What happened after Parcells left? Then what happened? The whole mess with Harbaugh and Sperano, right? Because Sperano was a Parcells guy, right? And so the whole mess happened with now all of a sudden Ross, because no one's there to keep him in check like Parcells, Ross is going out on the road behind Sperano's back after he just extended him and talking to Harbaugh.
The last 20 years, man, have been freaking awful as a Dolphins fan. Awful. Like all these stories, these stop and start. And look, I think it sucks to think of potentially starting over again, but I'm pretty confident.
Going to. He's 85. He's not going to put another 5-year rebuild. They're going to retool. That's exactly what they'll do. It'll be a retool.
And that's my fear, because I think it's they need somebody to run this operation that is a brand new, fresh approach. It has to be like it can't be like you almost can predict who the guy the Dolphins are going to draft. You know what I mean? Like we all wanted, and look, I Chop Robinson's right to the ship. He's going to be a good pick. But like it pisses me off when a guy, Troy Fontenot, gets picked one pick before you. And he's been hurt all year, so who knows what's going to happen there. But like it's just funny.
That's targeting.
Yeah, it's just funny that like it never works though. You know what I mean? Like everything we hear about like how they want it works, and it just never works.
Well, look at a lot of the guys I've wanted over the last couple of years: Jack Campbell, Sam Laporta. Like, look at how many guys that the Lions have drafted that I was super high on. Right? Look at 2 linebackers, my top linebackers 2 years in a row, my man crushes. Nick Bolton and Leo Chanel, where do they go? Both to the same team, to Kansas City. Like the good franchises are, I don't know, and we just keep whiffing like Channing Tindall, and then the next pick is Leo Chanel, and who it's not even close on who's better. Like I don't know, but okay. So I wanted to go ahead.
It's crazy, it is crazy, and like they draft good players sometimes, like and
they do.
It feels like they're like Cam Smith was a guy we both loved when they drafted him. Back-to-back injury-plagued seasons. Like, I can't go into year 3 expecting much of him. He's made as many big plays as a Dolphin as my dog.
And well, what's funny is his biggest play, and it was going to be a huge play for us, Jordan Poyer took the fucking penalty and blew the game for us.
That was the worst move of the whole offseason.
But look at Cam Smith made the play, right? Cam Smith made the play, made the pass breakup. That'd have been huge for confidence. We would have gone off the field and bro, and like we need those plays for this kid because Fangio gave the problem. What people aren't realizing, and I keep telling people this with Cam Smith, this is the issue where we are at with Cam Smith. We are going through year 1 pains in year 2 because Fangio gave him no reps.
That was awful. It was you got to draft players with a plan, right? Like, and it doesn't have to be that they always start. Like, I'll be honest, I kind of like how they brought Chop Robinson along, right? Like, initially, he kind of was just rotational. Now he's getting more established. He's learning on the back half. Like, you could argue that he's been as good as everybody on this defense, probably with the exception being Calais Campbell and Zach Sealer.
Yeah, he has one. Yeah.
I mean, like, that's like, I like how they brought him
and especially when he's had no help. He's got no help on the other side. Ogba, since the first 3 or 4 games of the season, has gone nowhere. Jalen Phillips is hurt. Quentin Bell offers you no pass rush. Oh. It's literally all Chop. It's literally all on a rookie.
And I do think it's going to be exciting when Chop and Jalen Phillips are on the field at the same time. And it kind of sucks that Phillips went down when he did, because he would have been a huge difference maker on this football team. Jalen Phillips was on the verge of having his best football ahead of him.
That's another guy. What do you do next year? Can you extend him? Guy can't stay healthy.
For me, because you have him on the 5th-year option, you got to let it play out, and it's a gamble. But like, I think the talent is so immense that you kind of have to. Yeah. But I could understand the argument why you wouldn't want to.
Yeah, because you're going to stay healthy and have 15, 16 sacks, and we're going to be like, oh, now we got to pay the guy.
Put that guy in a like a Steelers uniform or a Ravens uniform. He's getting 15 sacks, no doubt.
So what do you do with Jevon Holland wanting around 18 to 20 million?
Jevon's gone. I like him. He was a good player here. I kept waiting for him because I always thought he was very good. I don't like to throw the term great around on young players, and I gave him a lot of excuses when, he was playing a lot of different positions and all this stuff. This year, man, I think I've been more disappointed with him maybe than any player in the whole entire organization besides Jordan Poyer.
And P-Double, that's not true. Chop's gotten way better at setting the edge as the season's gone on. He's not elite or the best at it, but he's clearly better at setting the edge.
And I don't care if he can. I really don't care if he can. That's why you get other guys that do it. Let Chop Robinson do what he's good at, right? Because we don't get there and say, oh, holy crap, this guy can't go get 15 sacks. Chop Robinson gets you 15 sacks in the season. That's coming, right? So
Yeah.
I like that. But Jevon was a good player here. I mean, you're only going to get a compensatory pick for him unless you tag and trade him. And the tag and trade, as fun as that sounds, it very rarely works. The free agent market's awful. And if you're Jevon,
he's like the number one free agent.
If you're Jevon Holland's agent, you're like, look, dude, you might like to be in Miami, but you're going to go get 20% more in the open market. Like, go do it. And I think it's a win-win for both teams because I will say this, and I've been banging this drum. That $17, $18 million, go get me Trey Smith from Kansas City and put him at right guard. I don't care if we have
They're
a
not
Holland
going
safety.
to spend that, though,
I know.
bro.
I know they won't.
That. I know because I know you talked about it quite a bit.
Bro, I think they're going to re-sign Liam Eichenberg. I think they're going to try to extend Liam Eichenberg on a cheap one-year deal. And it will man. Julian Hill.
Right. That's why I'm laughing, because he's right.
Julian Hill, Liam Eichenberg. I don't understand how these guys, like none of us talking in the comments have job security like these guys. And I bet you all of us have accomplished more in our careers than both of them. Like, it is crazy. Julian Hill is awful. He reminds me.
He's terrible.
You remember the corner we had that sucked named Reggie Howard that we got from Carolina?
Yeah.
And he was supposed to be good, and he was awful. And what was the safety we got that was like supposed to be a good signing? And he was like one of the biggest busts we've ever seen. I can't even remember. There's been so many. But God, Julian Hill gets put in early, and he misses blocks and gets penalty on crucial situations. Because one thing I will agree is football is a game of momentum. When you start strong, you stay strong a lot of times, right? Like, the Dolphins are always slow out of the gates, and it's always because Julian Hill whiffs on a block or gets a 5-yard penalty on 3rd and 4, and then it's 3rd and 9, and it's like, and I will agree with something when Tua definitely has the deck stacked against them a lot of times, where the first thing you do is look at the Tyreek Hill and Waddle and say, oh my God, it's the best receiving core in football. Maybe it probably is if everything's clicking. And they got Jonnu Smith, who's a good vertical catch and pass tight end, but we cannot run a football. We have no running game. And I love Devon Achane.
And
I love Devon Achane.
Interior.
But Devon Achane is more of a weapon than a running back. And Raheem Mostert, that's $5 million against the cap you can save next year if you release them. You should think about it. You have no guards. Look, the right tackle, Kendall Lamb's been whatever. You know what I mean? But even Austin Jackson's a guy that I kind of probably elevate in my rankings because he was such a disaster and kind of turned it around. But our offensive line really doesn't give you a lot.
It's mediocre at best.
At best. So there is a lot that he has to move uphill. And he said Jason Hill. Jason Allen was one of the guys I was thinking about at safety. Moved to corner. He had 7 picks one season, but he was a disaster out there, man. But it's just it's frustrating because the same thing still happens. Special teams is always bad, but when the offense starts firing on all cylinders, the defense can't get a stop. When the defense is going to stop, the offense can't stop it, right? It is kind of crazy. And I you and I, we talk about how to solve these problems a lot of times. I'll be honest, man, I don't know anymore. I don't know how they can solve it anymore because they're so committed to the current structure and regime. I'll be honest, I'd be so happy if they just said, we're hiring a guy, the director of football operations, and whatever this guy says goes. They won't do that, though.
Yeah. I don't know. So let's get into this because this is a real conversation, especially as we head into this Jets week. Will Mike McDaniel lose the locker room if the Jets beat the Miami Dolphins? I say this because you look at the game, you had Mike McDaniel, the players are back to being undisciplined after 4 or 5 games where they were only having 0 penalties, 2 penalties, 1 penalties. They had all of a sudden found a disciplined edge to their game that went out the window. But also, I've been harping on this, and I'm going to continue to harp on this. I've been taking a different angle, Neal, with the 20 missed tackles that led to 132 yards. Or the
catch,
or the 174 yards after the catch out of Jordan Love's 274 total passing yards. Okay. Right. And this is kind of why I went back to is coaching the biggest issue in these big games. But I think you got to treat the missed tackles the same way you're treating the undisciplined football in the terms of, if you're going to give McDaniel all the flack, you got to give all that flack to Anthony Weaver. But what that shows me, if I dig deeper into the 20 missed tackles, Neal, is guys didn't want to be out there. Guys didn't want. And what's crazy is usually you see that from offense, not really from defense. That's a weird twist on it. Number one, I'll say. But also, number two, when you got, what's scary to me, Neal, about that is, you win that game, you're back at 6-6, you're back in the thick of the race, and that's on the line, and y'all don't want to be out there, so y'all don't want to tackle. So if they lose to the Jets, who are renowned as the biggest disaster and dysfunctional organization in the league right now, what do you think that would do for the Dolphins' morale and for, let's say, the players on defense who were already, shall we say, in business for themselves, missing tackles because they didn't want to be out there?
Yeah, when I was growing up and I played football, my dad was my coach, and he always said, go look at the other, when we played in cold games, he goes, go look at the other team's hands. And what he meant by that was, when it was cold, a lot of kids would roll their hands in their sleeves and be like this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he's like, we're going to whip their ass. Take the ball and run it right down number 4's throat. His hands are in there. And they didn't want to be out there. They just wanted to get the hour over with. It was cool if they lost, right? If the Dolphins lose to the Jets, a lot of the things we've talked about could change drastically, where then I believe Mike McDaniel could be fired, because I don't think he would just lose. I think he's already started to lose faith from his locker room. I think he would lose faith from the front office and owner.
Agree.
Because I'll say this, the Jets season this year is one of the top 5 biggest disasters in NFL history for any franchise ever. To be 3-9 after you were talking Super Bowl, to fire your coach and GM in the season, to get Devontae Adams and be no better, to get Hassan Reddick and do no better. This Jets season is the most pathetic season I've ever seen from an NFL team. And I hate to say it.
1-15, bro.
You know what, though? At least that team had some guts. We had Cleo Levin, right? At least that team had some guts.
Yeah, this team got the talent.
And I hate to tell you, Jets fans that are listening out there, I told you this was coming.
So did I, bro. I told them, bro. I wasn't going to do nothing.
But I haven't been able to take my appropriate victory laps because my team
is an issue.
Isn't much better. Yeah, they haven't choked it, and I laugh because it reminds me of when my expectations were when we got Dante Culpepper, even though I wanted Breeze.
But
that to me was like, and I remember in that first game.
Bro, I convinced myself John Beck was going to be an answer, bro. Come on.
Oh, bro, I had Chad Henne jerseys. Yes. They're in Baltimore. I'm an Orioles and Dolphins fan. There is no longer any orange Kool-Aid at any of the grocery stores around town. It's all in my house, in my basement, man. I've been buying the orange Kool-Aid for years. But, you lose to Aaron Rodgers, because here's what you know. The media coverage is going to be huge. It's Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. Let's watch the disaster. Let's watch this dumpster fire go and get beat again, right? Tua is undefeated against them. Sauce Gardner's not going to play. Breece Hall's not going to play. Morgan Moses might not play. If you lose that football game and you're the poster of the Jets season, a season where they failed to the level they have, and you're the one that they go on the road in Miami and beat with Jeff Ulbrich as their coach, I don't know if Mike McDaniel makes it to Monday morning.
Well, Neal, doesn't it go back to my point earlier where when you brought up, about the fear that Greer and McDaniel are going to use the injury excuse and get away, and I countered that and said, hey, if I'm Stephen Ross, I'm saying, well, you had Tua for Buffalo, you had him for Arizona, you had him for Green Bay. Isn't that going to further cement that argument that this is deeper than Tua missing 4 games, that you have him back, you have a lot of guys coming back, and you couldn't beat the Jets?
Yeah, man, and if you.
Oh, Neal froze, it seems. Neal is frozen. And he's gone. We'll wait for him to come back. But, that's what you've got to think about, right? All of a sudden, if you lose to the Jets, all excuses are off the table. What's your excuse? Austin Jackson isn't playing? See, that's where it gets super, super tricky for me, at least. If McDaniel manages to blow this game from a coaching standpoint, especially if you get out coached, especially if we're sitting here Sunday being like Jeff Ulbrich out coached him. Well, they haven't made the most of their opportunity. Let me tell you that. But I mean, this becomes the big issue for me with them. If you can't handle business against a team that's pretty much a renowned disaster, there's no question left that there's issues far deeper than the quarterback. Anyways, what were you saying, Neal? Sorry
about that. A loud boom just hit, and the power. I'm in my office, and the power just went out. We have no electricity. It's really windy here, so I don't know what just happened. But
no worries.
I come back. But no, yeah, man. This low key is a huge game for Mike McDaniel. It's a huge game in the sense that if he gets embarrassed, it could be the end of him. Even if they let him, like, it's one of those games that there's not a lot to win, but there's almost everything to lose for him at this point. And I'll say this, I don't think it's going to happen. Mike McDaniel is, as much as I've criticized him tonight, he's a way better coach than Jeff Ulbrich. It's not even close. That Jets team has quit. I mean, you already got Davante Adams saying that he doesn't know if he wants to come back, if Aaron Rodgers isn't there. I mean, I actually think the Dolphins are going to have their biggest margin of victory all season this Saturday or this Sunday. But, you know, I've said that before, so I kind of want to be careful with my words. But, like, I just don't see – because I actually think that the Jets have a little bit of talent. Like, I don't think they're, like, a talent-ridden team, but they're just dysfunctional to levels that we haven't even seen, right, you know, in Miami. But it's a game that, you know, it'd be great to see that high-powered offense kick into gear. You know, for me, I'll never, ever sit here and say – the Dolphins should lose this game for draft order. I want my front office to be good enough to find people. Like the Chiefs find people, the Ravens and Lions find people, and they're drafting at the end of the draft. The Eagles, you know, like you don't need a top 10 pick to find talent. We talked it before we jumped on here. 20 guys that would be there probably at 15. That would make a lot of sense for this football team. So I want the Dolphins to win every game they can from here out, whether it's playoffs or not. Like that, those cards have to, you know, be dealt, but. You know, I want them to win, man. I've seen people like, let's just tank and get a top 10 pick. Not me, man. That we've had that. We've done that.
Yeah, exactly. And how'd that work out? If Mike McDaniel were to lose this game and get fired, I've said it already a few times on air, but I don't think I've said it on air with you. If you're going new coach, I'll take Ben Johnson. And if you're going experienced coach, I actually want Steve Spagnuolo because I think he would draw from the Kansas City Chiefs organization. I think he'd bring over offensive minds that have worked with Mahomes and that offense and Andy Reid. And I think he would solve our defense and special teams issue too. So that's where I'm at.
And a good GM candidate, Mike Borgonzi, who's their assistant GM, would be a hell of a candidate to have on the potential GM front. I'll tell you, I haven't really.
He's one of the leading candidates for the Jets, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he's a guy on their short list. I think when all's said and done, it's going to be the assistant GM, Agnew from the Lions. I think he's a guy that I've heard has a lot of momentum towards it. His son already works for the organization. But, yeah, I haven't heard a lot of people say
I heard
Spagnuolo.
Ben Johnson will be selective.
Yeah, I think keep an eye if they fire
Cincinnati.
Yeah, I think because I do think that if you're Cincinnati, you have to take a hard look at Zach Taylor, right? Like
I agree.
That offense, Joe Burrow's having a monumental.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Neal, I was just gonna say, don't they feel like a parallel to us?
I mean,
the Browns. The Bengals. The quarterback's playing really good, and everything around him is just falling to crap.
Well, yeah, I think they're just another organization that just can't get over the hump. I mean, their defense is awful, but yeah. I mean, Joe Burrow is having an outstanding year. Jamar Chase is probably the best offensive skill position in football right now, but no, it's not working out. So I don't know, but I will say this: they did not pay Jamar Chase. So, and you remember what his dad said. You remember what his dad said a few years back, right? Where he wanted him to play. So I don't know. I welcome that in a second.
Is this Tyreek's last year with the Miami Dolphins? He posted this tweet and it had people going nuts. He said, "Love what you do because it'll end soon." And then people were like, "Is he talking about Skylar Thompson? Because Skylar Thompson's in front of him." What do you think? Do you think this is Tyreek Hill's last year in Miami? Him and Chubb, it was always a possibility that this would be the end for those two, no matter how this year went. What do you think right now?
I do, and the reason I think that is, if you remember when we first acquired him, he hinted that he was looking to play for another 3 years. You remember his initial deal with the Dolphins? He said he was going to ride that out and then think about retirement. I think that he's going to consider retirement, and if that doesn't happen, ultimately I do think he wants to go back to Kansas City. And depending on what happens with the Chiefs, if the Chiefs find themselves getting beat by Buffalo, I think that you could see them be open to bringing Tyreek Hill back. And I've seen people like trying to rip Tyreek Hill for his play on the field. And I think he's the best player I've seen in this jersey since Marino. I think he's been the first 2 seasons specifically, he was as good as we've ever seen. The thing that I don't love about Tyreek is that he seems content. And what I mean by that is he's got his ring. He's got his money. When we lose, he goes on Twitter, and maybe that's just his personality. But man, I don't know. It's hard to see as a fan of this team for 36 years where you haven't seen them win a playoff game in 24 years, and your second highest paid player is kind of throwing shade and jokes after tough losses. I don't like that, and I don't think the decision of Tyreek leaving is going to be mutually Tyreek's decision. I have a feeling the Dolphins front office is realizing that it's not going to work here long term when you're paying Tyreek Hill $30+ million, and that they need to find a way to diversify the weapons in their passing game. And when you look at age and contracts, it makes a lot more sense to move on from a guy like Tyreek Hill than it does Jalen Waddle. And that none of what I'm saying, I still think Tyreek's the best receiver in the world.
Well, and Neal, look at this. This is the first year under the Mike McDaniel regime where we've had 3 receivers over 500 yards. The thing about Jonnu and Waddle this season, and even with Achane,
I was going to say Achan's right there too.
Tua is proving that he doesn't need Tyreek as much as people. He's not the Tyreek merchant that people were trying to make him out to be. And what me and other people have been saying, that Tua elevated Tyreek, that's actually the case.
Well, dare I say that Tua might be a better player if Tyreek's not on the football team. And everyone who tells me I'm an idiot, there's no way, Josh Allen is better without Stephon Diggs.
Well, that's the thing, right? I had this conversation actually with the Dolphin fan yesterday on the phone, and this is what I said, and I've talked about this. Okay, so when Stephon Diggs arrived in Buffalo, I got a lot of hate on this channel. I think you were up here when we did the season predictions, and I said, and I was just gushing over watch Josh Allen and the leap he's going to take in his game, et cetera, et cetera. People in the chat were like, you're a Bills fan, go get a Bills jersey. This is the issue. You've got so many casual people, and you've got so many people who don't understand the nuances, and they don't understand the game. They haven't been involved in the game. They haven't really been around the game closely. So they think that the quarterback makes every clock tick when that's not the case. And I brought up this before, wide receiver. So they think the wide receiver production and everything hinders off the quarterback. So the wide receiver grows because of the quarterback. They never think that a veteran wide receiver can help make a young quarterback grow. And I always use Brady as the example here. Go look at Tom Brady before Randy Moss arrived. He didn't have one single season where he threw 30 touchdowns or more. Randy Moss arrives, he throws for over 50 touchdowns. And then look at how many seasons he had with 30 or more touchdowns after he played with Randy Moss. He learned certain things with Randy Moss, certain things to do in terms of throwing to receiver, the quarterback-receiver relationship on the field, et cetera, et cetera. And we're at a stage right now, Neal, where if you get rid of McDaniel, if you get rid of Greer, and you get rid of Tyreek, I'm still confident Tua is going to be the starting quarterback as long as he's healthy for this team, because I think we're at a stage right now where, similar to Brady, Tua's learned everything he's going to learn, and he's grown as much as he's going to grow with Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill has made him a better quarterback, but what we're seeing now with Tua continuing to develop, take what the defense gives him, and spread the ball out more, is now he is distributing what he's learned and the growth he has had with Tyreek Hill. He's distributing it to other receivers, i.e. Jonnu Smith having a career year right now. So, I think Tua has grown and had his stage of growth with Tyreek, like we've seen multiple other quarterbacks do with big-time receivers. And I think now that's why I think Tua will be fine, whether if Tyreek goes or stays. I don't think it matters anymore.
Well, there's two things, though, right? They're not, the Dolphins, as inept as they can be at times, they're not dumb enough to realize that if Tyreek did get moved, that there wouldn't have to be a counter move to replace him. And I'm not saying that they have to go out and get a $30 million a year receiver, but I that does mean maybe you look at free agency, right? Maybe that means you look at the draft, and then, you know, like there's a lot of counters to that. And I'll actually say the opposite. I'd actually like to keep Tyreek probably for one more season if it was up to me, because you don't get any cap reprieve really for moving him this season. You would the following year. So in a perfect world for me, I would love to know that Tua, A-Chain, Jonnu, Waddle, and Tyreek are back, and that the Dolphins are going to do everything they can do to fix the guards and to build that defense. That's what I would personally want. And I did this the other day, the exercise. I mean, if you don't sign Jevon Holland, the Dolphins could be $55 million under the cap pre-June 1st, with another $20 million coming available post-June with Bradley Chubb, so they can wait to sign their draft class like they did this year and go out and add a couple pieces to defense. Because free agencies, honestly, this free agency class might be one of the worst that we've seen in a decade. So, like, you don't need to spend big, and hopefully you get Phillips back and all that good stuff. But, like, I necessarily would probably, if it was up to me, say, hey, one more year with Tyreek. We know this is the swan song. Because I'll say this. I even think he has earned, by his play on the field, not to get discarded in an offseason.
Yeah, but does he forgotten? But he might want that, right?
I think he wants to go to Kansas City because I think he thinks he has a chance to win. And I'll be honest, I was told that he wants to go back to Kansas City because he thinks he has a chance to go win another Super Bowl there, which tells me he doesn't think he does right here. And look, he might be right, and I'm not going to sit there and try to defend the Dolphins, but I will say that it's the next few weeks, like, it's not to me about the playoffs. It's really about the future of this team, because I do say they win 4 games of the next 5. And, you know, maybe that feeling Tyreek has changes. You know, winning cures so much. Money and winning are the two things that cure things in life. You know what I mean? And I don't know. Like, it's a lot of this is premature. Like, I'll be honest. I don't even think his post with the Skylar Thompson was.
I think he's just trolling. I think he's talking about the end of the season, the end of the season. You know.
Yeah, I think you're 110% right. Yeah. I don't think that has anything to do with it. Yeah. I do think that there was a time at the trade deadline where potentially, you know, he might have been in Miami's ear saying, like, are the Chiefs interested? Right. So, but I don't know, man. I like. We'll see what happens, because it's one of those things that might be better off for you in the long run. But it would hurt. I don't know if you feel the same. It would hurt to lose a guy like Tyreek Hill.
Oh, it would.
Yeah, he's
but
instant
if you could
credibility.
If you could turn around in the draft and go get a guy like McMillan from Arizona, that's exactly like. But me and you talked before we went live here, when I was gushing about him before we went live. The problem is there's not many other guys like that in the draft. And he's not going to fall to us. He's not going to follow us. But that's what we need. We need that guy that's 6'4", 6'5", is tough at the catch point, can create after the catch. We need some size opposite of Waddle because, to your point earlier, we got too many guys doing the same thing and we just went hyper overdrive with it. We need to switch it up. And that's why John was such a breath of fresh air, because you look at how athletic and explosive he is after the catch, but look at the size he offers you, right? So pause.
Hey,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, and there's a lot of similarities in McMillan's game than there is to Mike Evans when he was coming out of Texas A&M. And, that's
and we know how good Mike Evans is.
Oh, Mike Evans to me is in like I think he's a Hall of Famer. I think he's on the Hall of Fame trajectory. Yeah, like he's
him and Godwin should both go, to be honest with you.
Yeah, well, there's a guy who's a free agent that won't probably cost you a ton of money. It's a guy like Chris Godwin. But yeah, I like there's gonna be so
players,
much time.
can I be honest with you? Players will want to stay in Tampa, eh?
Yeah, they're good. They're good at keeping their
because
guys.
It's a good organization. Like they just want to stay in Tampa. Like look at all the players after Brady won that were willing to take pay cuts, and none of them really left.
Well, if you think about it, man, like the Dolphins, it's kind of a loser's mentality, but the Dolphins should be in that NFC South division. That's what they should be in.
Yeah, I know.
Right? They should
AFC
be in that
South,
division.
AFC South.
AFC or NFC, but that's where they are.
Well, should be in the Colts. The Colts should be in the AFC East, but Huizinga turned it down. He wanted the rivalries.
I remember, and that to me was, it's just crazy geographically. Now, look, it doesn't make us even more of a contender because I do think that this Dolphins team needs to figure out a way.
We'd have a shot at winning the division still this year.
We
AFC South.
In a lot of divisions, I think we would, but it wouldn't make us a better team because of the temperatures and stuff like that. But yeah, man, a lot of this it's just frustrating because we're always talking about coulda, woulda, shoulda. I just wish this Dolphins team could back up some of the talk. But all that stuff's in the rear view. You can only move forward from here. Yeah. Look, as much as I don't think they're going to win all 5 games, I think when you factor in injuries and everything like that, the Dolphins could easily win all the games because the Jets are a disaster. We talked about that. Jameis Winston, I'll be honest, I respect him. He plays well, but he's a turnover machine. He's always been that. Like the Browns, it's probably going to be pretty damn cold. I do think we get flexed out of that game. I don't know if you do.
Yeah.
I think we get flexed out.
They got to announce it next week, though, don't they?
Yeah. Look.
Because they got to announce it 2 weeks out.
Yeah, the 49ers, you don't wish anyone injury on anyone, right? But, they're ripe for the picking for us. And I think the Texans are extremely overrated. I do.
That's what I'm saying. You got a chance here in these 3 games to actually, if you win these next 3 games, you are 8-7, and all of a sudden you got 2 games left, and I think you will have a shot at the Broncos because I think the Broncos could go 2-3 on the final 5.
What's their schedule? Do you have it what's their schedule like? I don't even.
I know who they finish
Chiefs,
with.
Right? They have the Chiefs.
Their last 3 games are the Chargers, the Bengals, and the Chiefs.
Yeah.
They got a tough schedule. And then before that, they got the Colts. They got an easy, they got, easy before the tough.
You need them to stub your toe when they're not supposed to. You need them to stub their toe when they're not supposed to once. And I know the records are what they are. I think the Dolphins are a better team than the Broncos. I don't know if I'm biased. I think we are, but who knows? The records don't say that, so I can't. I got to stop. I'm trying to think logically.
So they got the Colts, the Chargers, the Bengals, and the Chiefs.
So they got 4 more games left. Yeah, because they're 8-5.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
I could see them going 1-3 on that easily. The Colts are somehow finding a way to win right now. I don't know what's going on.
That's the game that you need the Broncos to lose is that Colts game. If they could get upset in that game, and you go back in time, man. I was so happy when the Jets kicker missed that field goal against Denver and Denver won because I thought Denver was going to be drafted in top 5.
Yeah.
I was the ultimate Bo Nix hater, and I still think he's going to hit a wall. But I thought that 5th round pick we got from Denver via trade was going to be practically a 4th because it was so early. Yeah. And they've kind of found a way to win. But
Did you see this? Tua Tagovailoa right here. I'll zoom in for you here. Tua Tagovailoa, he is currently on track to break the NFL record for the highest QB completion percentage in a single season. at 74.5% right now.
Yeah, he I mean, look, that the manipulation to the offense has allowed Tua to find his rhythm. I still want shots deep to Tyreek once in a while, though, man. It's such a game breaker. You know what I mean? But, I
defense are playing us smart. Like they're, rolling out cover 1 or cover 3, and then they're right at the snap or post snap rolling to cover 2, Tampa 2 looks. They're sticking on top of that stuff, man. Like a lot of it is not open, Tua, and you look at it, Tua's going through second, third, fourth progression, and it's just not open like how it has been. You know what I mean? Like that's why you need to run the ball. But that's why you need to be running the ball. If you could run the ball right now, plus Tua was eating the way he's eating underneath, the defenses would be forced to move up. But because we only are executing one half of that, they aren't moving up and giving it that attention. You need to be able to run the ball. If we were running the ball the way we were for those 3 or 4 weeks where we could sneeze and put out a 150-yard rushing game, if we were doing that with the way Tua's eating underneath, we would be damn near unstoppable, because then teams would have to pull up extra bodies to the box, and then we'd be able to kill you over the top. So we'd be like death by 3 different ways, really. And right now we can't run the ball, man. And I know you want to give Achane some hell, but Achane has great vision. He can make himself skinny. He's not the issue right now. The issue right now is, and you're even seeing Aaron Brewer's game suffer at times because of the jabronis he has on his left and right.
Yeah, the guards are awful.
Well, and this brings me back to, did you hear what Embree said today? He said, quote, "Do we dominate the trenches enough?" He said it rhetorically. "You have to look at our short yardage on both sides. I know offensively we need to get better in short yard situations." So in regards to the soft narrative, he said this: if that's a definition, then right now, if the shoe fits, we have to wear it until we prove otherwise.
I 100% agree.
He's telling you it starts in the trenches offensively.
Well, you know what?
He's telling you that.
But what have we been saying on this show for 2 years? The Dolphins are pretenders at running the football. I don't care what the stats say. They had, because Achane's going to break his. He's going to break run. Achane is everything you want. You talk about a home run 3rd-round pick. Devon Achane is having a hell of a season. It's between the tackles, and you can't run between the tackles when your guards, and if you watch the all 22 of the guards, how quick they get defeated. You can't prepare for that as an offense. Liam Eichenberg is off balance literally almost 75% of the time as soon as the ball hits Tua's hands. His instant push is to fall back on his heels. Robert Jones is better than Liam Eichenberg. He's not good. He's a serviceable.
That's not saying much, right?
He's like a serviceable depth guard. If he's your 10th offensive lineman, you're okay with Robert Jones. How Isaiah Wynn, he should be starting. And that's malpractice if he doesn't find a way to start getting on the field here in the next few weeks, because I don't know how you can watch that tape and I've lost all respect for Pro Football Focus's grading when I saw that terrible. They gave Liam a 61.1, and I'm like, what the hell did you watch?
Have you seen how they've been grading Tua compared to others who have been having terrible games? It's been, I don't know.
Yeah, Pro Football Focus, it is what it is.
Flawed.
It's a data system, but they have it's not even.
I like their analytics more. I like their analytics more than their grades. I only read their grades every Monday for my viewers because everyone wants to talk about PFF, but I tell them all the time, every time before I read the grades, I don't take them seriously. The only way I take a PFF grade seriously is it matches what my eye test told me.
You're 100%
trust
right.
your eyes more than some jabroni at PFF.
100%, because it doesn't take much to see it's 3rd and 1, and literally there's 2 defensive tackles waiting for Achane in the hole. It doesn't take rocket science to see someone's missing blocks consistently. So, but hey, it's another week and a week to right the ship, and a week where you should be superior and you should take care of business at home.
It just sucks, it just sucks that, those little voices in our head are telling us, they're going to probably blow them out. You probably will be right, and they probably will score the most points of the season. but don't get excited because until they give you reason to believe they can go into Cleveland and win and they can finish off the Jets in the final game of the season, the only way they can give you reason to believe they could do that is they got to beat the Jets this week. They got to go to Houston and beat the Texans, and then they got to take care of business against San Fran. And
100%.
I still have issues that even if the personnel is playing well, I still have what worries me in the Houston and especially the San Fran game is that those coaches come from the same tree and they might out coach. So
yeah, and that's it. That's one of my big concerns is the coaching down the stretch.
Yeah, exactly. So your wind is killing it. So you got crazy wind right now. So we'll wrap this up. Appreciate you, Neal. Great episode as always. Smash that like button. Subscribe if you're new. Over 300 people watching today. Anything you want to add quickly, Neal? You got like 10 seconds. Go ahead.
You know what? If we win, we officially eliminate the Jets from the playoffs.
Small victory.
I'll take a small victory for that due to all my off-season battles that I had with Jet fans. It's one of those things that you got to look for the small victories. But I 34-13, maybe worse than that. I think the Dolphins make as much of a statement as they can against a meaningless Jets team this week.
Fins up. We'll see you on the next one.